Wrestling with wrestling's past and present.
How old were you?
I was -3.
JR is trying to contain Jim Ross.
McFlurry,
It's Mick Foley. Do you see any of the aggro crag? Was any of that left over?
No, unfortunately not.
No?
I'm taking some of that home.
Definitely not is the barn burner that Leaf Cassidy and Tiger Rally Singh was, but we'll leave that there.
We digress.
God, I hope that storyline ends soon.
And 6 to 8 weeks later, they mail you a freaking magnet.
Yep. You may know him as the Red Rooster.
Is it still real to me? Damn it!
He kept making out with his wife. It was weird. So then, I'm waiting for them to put the Zelina Vega on a pole match.
And I mean, Big E's got Whale performing in his entrance, so I feel like
Wale.
they would.
It's Wale.
Wale. I don't listen to. Okay, well, I don't listen to him, so I apologize to Wale.
This is in the mail, my good sir. No, it wasn't.
I feel like Vince is just gonna have them team together and be like, have them called Woo Bro. Like they're just gonna be the Woo Bros. Like, anyway.
Giving us a reason to come here and listen to ourselves talk.
Absolutely,
And then you can listen to us too.
Strap on and balls only on wrestling past and present.
This is Gangrel, the Vampire Warrior, and you're listening to Wrestling where wrestling's past and present.
This is Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present. I'm Tim Kurt.
I'm Roland Pulis.
And I'm Mongo.
And today it is Royal Rumble season. Next week is the 2022 Royal Rumble. But today we're going back in time and we're going to cover the 1994 Rumble for you guys.
Yeah, I enjoy this time. Like, this was, I know Tim's slightly younger than Mongo and I, so like he may not have been like in his lore at this point, but like this was like the height of when I started watching. Like, I remember this, and then obviously I remember up to the Attitude Era and stuff like that. But like, this is some of the first stuff I remember vividly about the WWE, and we'll get into it. But like the Brett and Owen storyline was some of like the most riveting stuff when you were a kid, because you were like, no, they're brothers, like they can't fight, like no, and reliving that was pretty cool. I will say that.
That's what I hear when I hear Tim saying it earlier was Huey Lewis. Like that's this when he said we're going back in time. I always hear Huey Lewis, so I had to. Sorry. No, I agree with Roland.
I thought that was the Rumble opening music for a minute.
Yeah.
Oh no, no, I couldn't find that one.
Huey Lewis and the News shout out on the show.
Absolutely, they're legends. Got it right. But like Roland said, this was when I was, let's see, about 8 years old. So this is when I was really in my prime of wrestling too. So I definitely remember this one as well. Not only for the finish, we've already kind of spoiled it. It's very well known about the finish. But like Roland said, the Brett and Owen feud was must-see TV. That was the feud you wanted to watch through WrestleMania, through SummerSlam. You knew it was going to be a year of just banger matches. So that's what really stuck, and that's why I was excited to go back to this Rumble as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was 3 when this show happened, so I don't really remember it at all. But I do like this era in WWE. I mean, it is the kind of cartoonish era, kind of. But they are kind of blending in a little bit of real life with the Brett and Owen feud. So I thought that was a kind of a cool time to go back. So I really enjoyed watching this one. So we'll start. We have one dark match to talk about real quick. We have the Brooklyn Brawler getting a win over Jim Powers. Nothing noteworthy except the Brooklyn Brawler actually got a win. I think that's the only noteworthy thing. To me, this isn't the greatest match to get the crowd going, so I'm not sure what's going on, but I don't think there's much to talk about here.
Yeah, no, like you said, the most notable thing is that the Brawler actually won a match, so.
And it wasn't as doink either. It was actually as the Brooklyn Brawler.
Yeah. So we start off the actual pay-per-view with Tatanka getting a win over Bam Bam Bigelow in about 8 minutes, a little over 8 minutes. This was an okay match. Again, I don't know if this was the match to start off the show with. I would have probably preferred the tag match to start off the show. I think that would have been a really good way to get the crowd going. It was an okay match. Bam Bam, though, I think is really underrated for what he could do in the ring. I mean, he is really athletic for being as big as he is. I know his anniversary of passing was just a couple days ago, so Just want to acknowledge that. But the match itself was okay, but I don't think I would have started off the show this way.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Bam Bam, that was one of the things that we quoted Bully Ray and saying that was smart, and then he went off and screwed that up with the whole Moxley stuff. But he put a touching thing out about how Scott Bigelow was the guy that pretty much taught him how to lace his boots properly. So the anniversary of his passing, another guy who obviously was gone way too soon. And when you think of revolutionary big men, if you don't have Bam Bam Bigelow there, then you didn't watch wrestling, because I mean, this guy is the size that he is, doing top rope moonsaults and stuff. For a big dude, he was very athletic, and he set the table for guys like a Big E. And I know Bam Bam's a little bit bigger than Big E, but Big E does some pretty damn athletic stuff for a guy his size too. But like, he set the table for guys like that who would be that athletic down the road. And it's nice to go back and appreciate that. And then I also want to point out too that this was supposed to be, according to what they said on commentary, it was supposed to be Ludwig Borga, not Bam Bam in the match. So that was it was thrown together last minute, but Bam Bam and Tatanka also had history, so it made sense. And yeah, like Tim said, it wasn't exactly, I mean, I guess they were kind of hoping just Tatanka coming out and dancing around to his music and stuff would get the crowd going, which it did to an extent. But the match itself, it wasn't much there. Tatanka won it with pretty much a crossbody off the top rope, so it wasn't anything to write home about. It was a decent match, and two well-known competitors. And again, Tatanka is a guy that's still somewhat active now, which is kind of impressive, thinking that this is 94. So.
No, I agree. It wasn't like the greatest match. It wasn't like the barn burner. It was, I hate to say it, but this is kind of why, this is like the new gen era, as they called it. This is why I wasn't really a big fan, because this is kind of the matches they had. But you can't, like you said, you can't knock Bam Bam Bigelow and call yourself a wrestling fan. He's on the Mount Rushmore with Vader. It's hard to say, but him and Vader are 1 and 2 on the Mount Rushmore. And even today, like you said, there's plenty of inspiration. You have Ace Ramiro, who's an Impact now, currently in Limitless, who, if you watch some of his matches, I know I've sent you a few clips of different things, he's very similar to a Bam Bam style or a Big Van Vader. And obviously, I loved Bam Bam. I loved when him and Vader teamed up back in the day. I used to watch it on the old VHS tapes, because obviously you couldn't really watch New Japan on TV back in '92, but you could get those Columbia House videos or Coliseum videos from WWF, all these different types of videos. And I used to watch him and Vader to get together, and I was thought, man, who's going to stop these guys? I can't believe they never put them together in WWF, because that would have been a great tag team.
Yeah. And to kind of finish the point about Bam Bam, a lot of people don't remember, he actually main evented at WrestleMania. With Lawrence Taylor at 11. And granted, the attraction was Lawrence Taylor. It wasn't really Bam Bam, but that's a credit to Bam Bam for willing to go out and have a match to main event WrestleMania with a guy that's not a wrestler. And he's putting his trust in Lawrence Taylor to have a good match. So, I mean, it's a credit to Bam Bam and, his dedication to the business.
Yeah, and 17 years later, we're still talking great things about him. So he obviously made a good impact on the business too.
Yeah, and he's got a really cool head tattoo.
I was gonna say he had that look too. He just looked like a big menacing badass. Like that's yeah. You describe someone that looks like you're like, I don't want to meet him in a dark alley. It was Bam Bam Bigelow just because of his look and his size. So he was a character. That's exactly what he was. And to go back and watch it, and it makes you appreciate what he could do in the ring, not just his character for looks and stuff. So.
And he also plays a great part in Major Payne when he plays a biker to try to scare the kids, and Major Payne beats him up.
Or I thought you were going to mention Ready to Rumble, the greatest movie of all time.
It is. Oh, yeah. Bill, he plays Bam Bam, but he plays like this biker in Major Payne.
Yeah.
It's a military school, and the kids are trying to rebel against Marlon Wayne's character.
Yeah.
So they hire the bikers to beat him up, and he comes and Marlon Wayne just destroys them all. But Bam Bam because he was so good at selling and his facial expressions, it's a little bit part in the movie, but you should watch a clip if you guys haven't seen it. It's definitely on YouTube.
Oh, and before we go much further too, if we sound a little bit different this week, we are battling some technical difficulties. Just bear with us. We might be a little echoey. We're doing the best we can on our end. So we just want to point that out, that if it does sound a little bit different, we had a time crunch, and then we had a little bit of a technical difficulty, but we wanted to get you guys a show because we don't do best ofs.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't want to cause you guys emotional damage.
So if you want to complain about how we sound, send your hate tweets to www.papmongo on Twitter.
And if you want to see some handsome people, you should make sure you follow at T-Kurt on air. Cheese for talk.
Yes.
And at Roland Fields. This is the easiest one. This is the name.
Yeah, I'm just the simple guy that was like, I'm just going to put my name here. Like, I don't whatever. Most faces.
Simple. Just kidding.
Right?
Next up is a tag team match for the WWF tag team titles. You have the Quebecers with Johnny Polo. They are going to retain over Bret and Owen Hart. I'm going to get to the Bret and Owen Hart storyline in just a second. The first thing I noticed about this match, though, was Johnny Polo, who is Raven, did not fit that character. Like, he was just so out of place wearing the Hawaiian style shirt, and just like, that was not for Scott Levy. That was not the character for him.
Would you want to use his putter, Tim? Would that be something you might be interested in for golfing, maybe?
Maybe.
That putter. And that's the other thing. He's Johnny Polo, but he's bringing like a golf putter to the ring. It's not a polo. You would think he'd be bringing like a polo. Is it a club? I don't know. A polo. I don't even know what it's called, but you would think
don't know.
You would think
I think of the shirt.
Well, yeah, but he wasn't.
Or
even
like
he was wearing Hawaiian shirts. Like I don't. Yeah, like Tim said, weird character. It didn't fit. What would become Raven, who we just covered in TNA. Like think of that Raven, and then think of what we saw in '94.
Yeah.
And how 2 weeks in a row do we have a fucking Johnny Polo reference? Because last week Roland was like, "Hey, it's Raven, artist formerly known as Johnny Polo," and now this week we have a match featuring Johnny Polo. So. Yeah, we've really come full circle, huh?
Poor Scotty Flamingo.
But the main storyline here is obviously the teeth of the tension between the brothers Owen and Bret. They've had a big feud going back to Survivor Series, where Owen Hart was the only one eliminated from the Hart family, and from then on there was some dissension. But then they just kind of made up miraculously. So they were ready to go fight for the titles. They had a great match here. Bret, he hurt his knee in the match, not real, just, kayfabe. Hurt his knee during the match. And he had a point where he was able to tag Owen, but didn't, and continued wrestling. And the referee stopped the match, and Quebecers retained. And then Owen said, well, all he had to do was tag me. And then he, proceeded to beat up Bret Hart a little bit. So
the kick heard around the world.
Yes.
When he kicked his leg out from under him.
And then the famous promo botch after too. But yeah, kicking his leg out.
Yeah.
But
so here's my one point before Mongo tries to tread on my water.
I was trying to kick your leg out.
Yeah. You wouldn't know right now the condition I'm in. You pretty much could blow on me and I'd fall over. So it wouldn't take much. But with the balance issues I have. But so my one issue, and it's a big issue with this match, is referee Tim White pretty much facilitates a 2-on-1 beatdown from the Quebecers outside during this match. He keeps Owen away. He watches them do it and still keeps Owen away. And then Owen's over there at one point, and it was like the sloppiest. It was weird. There was like a 5-minute segment where Bret was outside the ring during this match, and Tim White's like the third man in. He's like letting it happen and like keeping Owen at bay and like watching to see both Quebecers beating the crap out of Bret on the outside. And then shout out to PCO for still being active today also, which is impressive. Going from the Quebecer gimmick, from that to the pirate gimmick to what he is now. But that was the one takeaway. Was I'm like, why is the referee letting this happen? And then they're like, oh, he's still counting. It's like, yeah, but he's watching a mugging take place.
We started his count like 10 times.
Yeah, it was weird, very weird.
Yeah, it was definitely some bad reffing in this match. It was just like you said, he was culpable. He was sitting there just like, oh, the Mountie and PCO are beating down on Bret Hart. It's fine. Owen, you can't come in the ring. No, stop it. Like,
You can't come in the ring and then go back out the ring on that side. No.
no. So again, you take that aside, just the historical moment, like Roland said earlier, and like we've kind of, and Tim's talked about, is the brother versus brother turn. This is, what made you want to keep watching. This is the storylines that they're capable of. The Jeff versus Matt storyline at WrestleMania, they did years and years later. Brother versus brother is always going to work, because let's face it, if you have siblings, at some point in time, you guys have had a little feud over something stupid or rivalries. And this was him being jealous over Brett's success and saying Brett's selfish. And it was a good storyline lead up, and, led to a good WrestleMania 10, which, cheap plug, episode 16 in the archives if you want to listen to the guy's thoughts on WrestleMania 10.
Yes, thank you for that plug. So next up, we have
to further the cheap pop. Mick Foley still owes Tim $10.
Yeah.
I was almost I started coughing, so I muted myself, and I almost forgot I was on mute. I said like 2 words and went, "Oh crap, I'm on mute." So I will point that out. I know you guys were kind of letting it go there. I know Mongo saw it, but just went to further the cheap pop. Mick Foley still owes Tim $10.
I'm waiting, Mick. I'll take it from Cactus Jack, Dude Love, Mankind. Mick
I think
Foley.
you need to take $333 from each one. Well, no, $250 from all of them. I think
$250 from all of them
would be the fair way to do it.
Yeah. Next up is a singles match for the Intercontinental title. You have Razor Ramon and IRS Erwin R. Shyster, or Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas's father,
Mike Rotunda, whatever you want. Hey, before
BK
you go,
The future endeavored.
But before you go any further, before we get into like the match, did you guys realize how bad? Did you notice how bad he was sweating during this match? That's for whatever reason, I just couldn't stop looking at it. Like Razor's out there having a match, and he's like barely breaking a sweat, and Rotunda looks like he just got hit with a fire hose.
Yeah,
I'm like, holy crap! I'm like, every time they did a close up, he's like,
well,
at one point he's going like this, like trying to get like the sweat out of his eyes. It was like,
well, nobody in the arena paid their taxes, so he was probably
he was stressing. Yeah, he was stressing. That's a good point.
And they had hockey games in that arena the weekend before, because this is in Providence, Rhode Island in January. This isn't like Sacramento, California, where, okay, maybe the cooling system broke, but no, this is winter. So either the heat was cranked up, the house lights combination, or he had some medical issue. Yeah, like Roland said, it was just like, if you've ever seen Along Came Polly, where Ben Stiller's character gets his face rubbed on like the sweat of the other guy, and his face is glistening. That's kind of what his face looked like. It was just...
He looked like Bobby Lashley to me. Like Lashley's one of those guys that like just sweats profusely, but like he's also going 100 miles an hour usually when he does it. Rotunda has him in like a rest hold and he's like pouring sweat. I'm like that's a lot of sweat for a guy. Like, and again, I know that's like, it sounds weird to be nitpicking someone sweating, but like it stuck out because even Razor was just sitting there like cool, calm, collected, not really breaking a sweat until the end. And Rotunda during the match, just like I say, it looked like he fell in a bucket of water before he came out.
And even back then, you knew this match, you knew that IRS didn't have a chance. One, because it's against Razor Ramon. And, the whole interim title, was still kind of in play. Like, you knew they were leading towards that. Like, they were teasing the Sean Razor feud at this point, so you knew it was going to lead up to. So you almost knew it was just a placeholder match to keep, Razor Ramon ready for WrestleMania.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Shawn Michaels played a role in this match, hits Razor with the fake Intercontinental belt. IRS initially gets the win, but then Earl Hebner comes out and, tells, I think it was Joey Morello was the referee, tells what happened as Razor Ramon or IRS is celebrating. Razor hits the Razor's Edge, gets the 1, 2, 3, and retains the title. So, I mean, it's an entertaining.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it was an entertaining match. I think one of the best parts for me was they switched the commentary on this one.
That's what I was just going to say. Speaking of Joey Morella, you had Gorilla Monsoon out there on commentary with Jim Ross for the one match.
Well, they were doing the radio WWF for the whole show, and they just brought him in for this match, and it's just so much better than the commentary team between McMahon and Ted DiBiase. I actually don't mind McMahon on commentary a lot of the times, but him and Ted DiBiase to me, I don't know, wasn't the greatest fit. But hearing actually Monsoon and JR, which is not a really common commentary team, I actually thought they did a really good job together, and it was refreshing to hear.
Yeah, and like for those of you who don't know, Joey Morello was the son of Gorilla Monsoon. So like I just wanted to that's why that tied together so nicely when Tim mentioned that. But yeah, it was, like I said, an interesting change when they did that. And you would have thought that like maybe they would have done it for more than one match, but it was just that one match, and then it was back to Ted and Vince, and like Tim said, not a terrible combination, but also not that great. Definitely left a lot to be desired in the commentary booth, unfortunately. And I too enjoyed Vince, because Vince played a like excited, delusional man very well, which he still does delusional stuff to this day, but he played that character so well of like, oh, what happened? Oh, I didn't see it. Or like at one point in the Rumble, like when somebody gets eliminated, he's like, oh, who is that? And then he called it the wrong person. And like, so like you could tell he was invested, and he was, trying to keep up with the action and stuff like that. And that's the thing that was cool about Vince. And back then, he didn't let it be known that he was the owner up until the Stone Cold Steve Austin era anyways. He was just a commentator to the regular person. So,
going back, I can't stand. He just fucking yelled in a headset. Like, I don't know. Like, I get what you're saying. Like, he played the excited, like, oh my God, what? What do you mean? Like,
that's gotta be Kane.
What? Like, it's just, I just feel like for someone who has so much wrestling knowledge and really translate as much, it's like, even back then, you're like, why is this guy commentating if he has no idea what's going on any of the time? And then in hindsight, you're like, why do you have to play a complete moron? We've already seen enough of those commentators throughout the course of wrestling, but that's either here nor there. But I agree. I thought the whole Gorilla Monsoon commentating was a cool little nod. I think they were a better commentary team than, like you said, McMahon and DiBiase at one point, because that was just weird.
Yeah. Next up is the casket match for the World Heavyweight Championship between Yokozuna and the Undertaker. Really, really cool promo with the Undertaker before the match, with him building the casket, making it extra wide in case Yoko has to go in there. Yokozuna's got Jim Cornette here and Mr. Fuji. Undertaker obviously has Paul Bearer. This could have been so much better. We've mentioned the term Gaga a lot on this show, and this match is the definition of Gaga. You have the entire roster coming out at one point beating up the Undertaker. You probably have WCW wrestlers coming out to beat the Undertaker. It felt like everybody that was a wrestler came out to beat the Undertaker.
There was three people that hopped the rail that helped out. Nobody.
Yeah.
The Bud Light guys, like hucking Bud Lights from the top row.
Fine guys in there. There was so much extracurricular stuff going on that really took away from the match. This could have been. Now, I don't know if they did that because maybe Yoko, was battling some health issues. Well, we obviously know he struggled with his weight, although he didn't look that bad to me comparatively here. I think he's definitely been heavier at times in his career than he was here, so he didn't look to be that. He was out of shape, obviously, but not comparatively. If you know Yoko's history, he wasn't as bad as it was. Yeah. So I don't know if there was something going on with him, but he didn't do much in this match. So I don't know. I just could have been so much better.
Well, and I don't think Yoko's real decline happened until after he lost the championship. I think that he was pretty solid during his championship run. So like you said, it was kind of weird to see him not really do much in the match. And I think some of it was because he was quote unquote scared of the casket. I think he was afraid to do, so some of it was played up, but easily the definition of like, what? Like it was so much cluster that you just didn't know, like Tim said, there pretty much the whole locker room at one point comes out to help Yoko, which is weird because I know they're heels. It's a heel, bro. But like, I know they're heels, but like, what do they gain from helping the champion bury the Undertaker other than, oh, we got rid of the Undertaker? It's like, yeah, but you gain literally nothing. It's not like Yoko's like, hey, if you help me, like, it would have made more sense if they had Cornette, like they show him backstage talking to the heels, like, hey, if you help us, we can give you a title match, or like there's something that, we'll pay you, $5,000 a piece if you have it's weird that this happens, and why? Like, it's just there was no backstory at all, but yet they had all the backstory in the world for the Brett and the Owen thing. So it could have been so much better if they were going to have the interference had it had a backstory.
What's hard is, I remember the promos for this match so much. So I know when we talked about it last week, that I was like, I can't wait for this casket match, because I remember the promos. I remember this, like Roland said, the scared Yokozuna in the ring. His eyes are like bugging out of his head when Undertaker's shown making that big ass casket. The Undertaker creepy vignettes that they had, and the true Undertaker character of him actually building the casket in like the Old West setting. Paul Bearer advising him. So they did such a great job building this up. And then, you go back in hindsight and you research, Undertaker was going on vacation until SummerSlam. He was just taking time off to rest up, spend time with his wife, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like you both said, I'm not going to go too much into it. It was just the definition of blue balls and gaga. Like something that built up. Like, this is gonna be great. This is gonna be great. What? No, it's like
that should be a T-shirt. Blue balls and gaga. Pro Wrestling Tees, if you're listening, you should,
no, that's our shirt. God damn it!
Wrestling with Wrestling's past and present. Blue balls and gaga. Yikes!
And Huey Lewis.
Huey Lewis and the blue balls and gaga. Oh God. Wow, what's some references? So Tim gets most of the references. Unless it's a movie, Tim gets it. So I appreciate that.
I'm more of a music guy than a movie guy.
Which we know. That's why, again, happy National DJ 2 days late shout out.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
And then to cap all that off, like, we have the difficulties we have today. So clearly, like, someone was like, we're going to see how good Tim really is. Hey.
Yeah, we're gonna see. Again, if you don't like it, www.PAP Mongo on Twitter.
And to be fair, if you don't like it, I'm sure there's probably a remix episode of Bruce Pritchard's show you can listen to. Yeah, feel free if you want to listen to something you've heard before. So we could have done that. We could have very well done that. But we don't. We do everything. There's times where there's only two of us to make sure we don't do that to the fans. And I know we're not as busy as Bruce Pritchard and whatever. And I'm not trying to say we are Bruce Pritchard. I'm just saying that for a guy that has in his contract that he's allowed to still do his podcast, he doesn't necessarily put it on the top. Like, if it were me, I would tell Vince, no. Like, oh my God, tell Vince no. Be like, no, I have to do this. Like, it's in my contract. I'm going to do it. But instead, he's so yes that he can't tell Vince no one time to be like, no, I need 2 hours this day to record this podcast, so it comes out on the day it's supposed to fucking come out on. Yeah. But anyhow,
didn't CM Punk say something about him and Johnny Ace being a bunch of yes men anyway?
Mm-hmm. He did.
So the main event is the 30-man Royal Rumble match, which actually ended up being a 29-man Royal Rumble. We'll get into that in a second. Which
if we have 29 women for this year's Rumble, we'll be shocked, because now there's like 6 women on the roster, so on each show.
Traditional stipulation here: winner of the match can get a title shot at WrestleMania 10. We'll run down the order of the entrances here real quick. So you got Scott Steiner number 1, then Samu, Rick Steiner, Kwang, who was replacing Kwang. Kwang is Savio Vega. Kwang was replacing Ludwig Borga, I believe, in this match. Then you have Owen Hart, Bart Gunn, Diesel. Diesel did your typical big man spot with a bunch of eliminations.
The Diesel spot.
The Diesel spot.
Well, no, and that was whenever you hear Pritchard or anybody talk about like that spot, they called it the Diesel spot. So like, it was kind of cool to see Diesel do the Diesel spot.
Yeah. You got Bob Backlund, Billy Gunn. Virgil is in at 10. Virgil was a replacement for Kamala. You have Randy Savage at 11. Jeff Jarrett, Crush, Doink the Clown, Bam Bam Bigelow at 15. Then Mabel, Thurman, Sparky Plug, Bob Holly, whatever you want to call him. Shawn Michaels in at 18. Mo, Greg Valentine at 20. Let me just say this. Greg Valentine put on a really heck of a performance in this Royal Rumble. Like, I was surprised that he lasted as long as he did, because he's kind of on the later stages of his career at this point.
I was going to say, he was out there looking like weathered leather.
Yeah,
and he was still moving around, and like you said, yeah, he stuck out in a good way.
he did good.
Man, he really is just Triple H.
Yeah. 21 was Tatanka. Then you have the Great Kabuki, Lex Luger. I'm gonna butcher this name. Genichiro Tenryu.
We'll just call him Tenryu because that's all they called him, really.
That 25 was supposed to be Bastion Booger, but he was sick, so he did not compete, and they didn't have apparently anybody else on the roster that could take a spot.
I was going to say, send the Brawler out unless he was already in the point costume, which, I mean,
how old was Bastion's son, Big Dick Johnson? Was he old enough yet to go in?
Probably not. No.
Rick Martel was in at 26. Again, he put on a pretty impressive performance, I should say. I can't speak today. 27 was Bret Hart, followed by Fatu, Marty Jannetty, and then Adam Bomb is in at number 30. And Vince McMahon said, Adam Bomb's going to win the Rumble.
And he didn't even make it to the final 6 or the final 5. The final 5 had Tenryu in it, which is
Tenryu, Michaels, Luger, Hart, and then
Fatu.
And Fatu, yeah.
Rikishi.
I was going to say, can we just talk about that we had Shawn Michaels, Rikishi, Bret Hart, and Lex Luger as the final 4 in the Royal Rumble.
The artist soon to be known as Rikishi.
I did it for the Rock.
So everybody pretty much knows this finish. I mean, Bret and Lex get eliminated at the same time, and so they went back and forth for about an hour trying to figure out who won the match. You know, Earl Hebner voted for Bret Hart. I think Joey Morello voted for Luger. They kept showing replay, but the replay, they didn't have an angle at the floor, so I don't know why they kept showing a replay.
And that was done on purpose because they were worried that, and Bruce Pritchard actually talked about this, they were worried that they wouldn't hit at the same time. Yeah. And they didn't want to even have footage proof that someone hit first.
Yeah.
So they were told, do not shoot that side of the ring, do not walk around that side of the ring. We don't even want to have footage just in case. And like you said. And then can we talk about right before it gets down to Luger and Bret, the cool spot, how Michaels and Rikishi were eliminated. They were thrown essentially Irish whipped into each other, but Marty leapfrogged him. And then they were both Sean leapfrogged him. Marty did something good. Anyhow, we know who the team here is, but Jannetty was in there, but that was who Vince McMahon incorrectly identified when he got eliminated. He said it was a 1-2-3 kid first, but anyways, so Sean leapfrogs Fatu, and then they back body drop each other over the posts, like not even like over the rings, but over the post, and it looked like Sean took a pretty nasty bump there, but it was a cool kind of innovative spot, especially back in '94. I mean, you see now people going over posts and jumping off posts and all this stuff. But like back then, you didn't really see a lot of it. So it was kind of a cool spot.
I definitely enjoy this. I also enjoyed Diesel's showing. I thought it was cool because this was, them kind of giving the rub to Diesel, like how pretty much they do in every Royal Rumble is always that one person who has a star-studded performance, but they just come up quite short. Or they don't make it, but then the next year they crush it. So this was like the little like them lighting the match on the rocket to Diesel, and knowing that they actually planned the long term story. Again, this is what we miss about WB. They were like, okay, we want to push Diesel, but here's how we're gonna start. We're gonna start at the Rumble. We're gonna make him look badass. 94 will be his year. It's going to conclude 95 with the title one, yada yada. So him in the Rumble, just defeating. I mean, he defeated. Look at the list here. Owen Hart, he eliminated Billy Gunn, Bob Backlund, Virgil. So like he took some people out. Yeah, they were jobbers, but he looked dominating in the actual Rumble. So I appreciated that. I was actually surprised, to be honest, too. Like you said, that Greg Valentine did look so good. Besides, so aging, just because when I picture Greg Valentine, like for some reason in my head now, I just see the Hall of Fame image where he's just kind of like sitting there nodding. And like his but like I know it's not him. I'm like, yeah, that really is Triple H to make my joke. It's like it's uncanny how much Triple H is like Greg Valentine, like career wise, look wise. It's just so it was kind of a cool spot. Like that's why I like what the Rumbles. I like the the legend spots, the returns. I mean, Kamal, like you said, Kamal was supposed to be in it. I was disappointed because I remember I'm thinking he was in it. I'm like, crap, that's right, he really wasn't.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Virgil instead.
They could have had Pat Patterson go out there in Bastion Booger's spot. I mean, we know he was there. He was one of the 27 people trying to help Bret Hart to the back.
Yeah.
So
crazy. Yeah, you could find you had
fill
people that you
it
could have
with
put in there.
somebody. Like
Put somebody in there.
that is the weird. Phil, you have a guy on commentary. You know, like you could have very easily said,
wasn't even on the show.
yeah. I mean, you had people like it's not like they couldn't, unless he literally got sick 2 minutes before he went out there. Like he's waiting at gorilla position and he puked all over Pritchard. Like, unless that's how it went, like why couldn't you have
Even
found
then you have time, but
yeah, but I mean, like let's just say worst case scenario, he's by the curtain and he friggin'
True.
naps. Okay, well then, okay, but like if they knew about it earlier in the day, like, hey, he's sick, he can't go out there. It's like, how do you not? You replaced other guys. How do you not replace him? Like, nobody. There's just nobody out there that you could put in the match. I mean, you had you could have put one of the Quebecers in there. They weren't in the match, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say you literally had Mountie or PCO go in there. Either one of them could have been in there. I will say it was cool though when they announced that it was the 90-second intervals and they were emphasizing how it was new. So kind of cool to know that 94 is when they changed it from like 2 minutes, which if you watch some of the first ones, that's a long time between people. And there's 2 minutes between time.
Well,
President Jack Tunney made that change.
Yes, I actually read up on that. I think they did that because they were going to plan for the confusion at the end, with the not knowing who won, and so they were trying to save time for that on the pay-per-view. So that's why they narrowed the interval, so they had more time to do that at the end of the show.
Makes sense because they spent, like you said, like about like an hour. It was like
the
winner is Lex, the winner is Brett, the winners are.
Like, are you sure?
Like,
Howard Finkel, like.
Howard Finkel's like, can you just tell me? Like, poor Howard Finkel's like, just fucking tell me. Just tell me. Like, I look dumb right now. Like, just tell me. And then I feel bad because the crowd has no idea. So, like, they're just sitting there, like, in the complete silence because, you can't hear the commentators watching the replay over and over, like you said, which was purposely a bad angle. So that must have sucked being there. Like, this has really been 10 minutes of us watching this replay video and nothing going on. Like, it's a cool finish. It's historic. I understand why they did it. Because they didn't really trust the Lex Express, which I'm glad they didn't. Because let's face it, he was Vince McMahon's prototype. It was the guy who looked great, but he was like kind of like the Chris Masters. Just it was too green. It just didn't improve his craft enough. So it just there's still footage of him carrying a title on that Saturday wrestling show because they were doing a test run that never came to anything, and because he got no reaction. And so this just led to Bret Hart getting to wrestle twice at WrestleMania 10.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's cool because Bret Hart still was selling his knee injury earlier and having a strong showing. Plus, the way they went out was cool because Lex Luger, if you watch it very closely, he like wraps Bret and then turns. So if you watch, it's actually Lex who kind of like saves Bret from basically dying when they go over the top rope. So I looked up and Bret actually said the same thing in his book that if it wasn't for Lex, he would have like smashed his noggin on the floor because he went over at a weird angle. So kudos to him for at least, since I crapped on his wrestling, at least not letting Bret die when he went over the rope.
Well, and not only that, had he held them up there like this the whole time, they would have been so easy to tell like who won because like he had him in a crossbody essentially when they went over backwards. It wasn't like Batista and Cena where he was on his shoulders and like they both, he essentially muscled him. I know Bret kind of like almost ran at him, sort of hobbled at him or whatever you want to say, but like he had him cross-body pretty much even with that top rope, and he had to, take the roll. So it was all him controlling where Bret went. So yeah, kudos to Luger for not just letting Bret fall on his head.
Yeah. Well, that is our rundown of Royal Rumble 94. I enjoyed it. I mean, I like this era. I'm going to give it probably maybe a 6.5. Match of the night was the tag team match between the Quebecers and the Hart brothers. Royal Rumble is, it was entertaining just for the characters that were in there. Even the IRS, Scott Hall, Razor Ramon match was okay. So I just for the nostalgia part of it, I really liked it.
I have a future idea for one of our shows. If we end up getting in a point where we don't have something that lines up, I know we did the wrestling roulette, which was fun. Don't get me wrong, but I think it would be cool if all three of us could get together and just watch a Rumble and pretty much commentate and talk about what's happening in the Rumble. Just a Rumble match, not the pay-per-view. Like just pick a random Rumble, even if it has like a shitty card. If it's just a Rumble, I think that would be cool content because like we could have people watch along with us when we do the podcast itself. Even if you don't watch along, we'll give you enough to get you through it. Like I think that would be a cool concept because I love watching old Royal Rumbles and not knowing who's coming out and who's going to get eliminated by who and that's the lore of the Rumble to this day is the surprise entrance. And again, I said this off air. Spoiler alert: Cody Rhodes is not going to be in this year's Royal Rumble. There's no way he's going to be in this year's Royal. There might be some surprises, former ROH guys or New Japan guys or stuff like that. AEW is not working with WWE. AEW barely worked with WWE for the Broken Skull thing, and even after that, Vince was said to be he was fine with it when it happened, and then afterwards he was pissy about it. So it's like.
And these rumors are all started because AEW have been talking for documentary purposes for stuff on the network, but Tony wants to make it a mutually exclusive relationship. So again, we've talked about this before. They want to make an AEW type of network. So he says, okay, but I want to see if he can get some of maybe their tag team partners to get an Edge. Like that's the big rumors. He wants to be able to get, Edge to that would interview because they want to do a documentary on Christian's AEW run when it's all done because he has Impact footage to use. So why not have Edge having commentate? Like things like that. So that's where these rumors start, and then people just fantasy book way too much, and then they go on Squared Circle or they go on Twitter and they put out these ideas, and then they cite. It's like when you see a trailer for a Marvel movie or you see a trailer for a movie you really want to see, and you start saying, "Oh, maybe this person will be in it. Maybe this," and then you go and you're like, "The movie sucked." No, you made your expectations too high. We're all guilty of that. But like what Roland's saying is what I said last week, what we've said on all of our socials at WWPAP Podcast, is that you can't expect Vince to open the forbidden door. It's probably even going to be the fucking forbidden filing cabinet at this point. Like Roland said, they got Mickey James, so then now everybody's thinking they're going to work with every company. They're not. Just have realistic expectations for the Rumble. You're not going to see a Moxley or Kenny Omega come in. I mean, Jericho will be cool, but I don't think that's going to happen because it doesn't benefit AEW for him to go in just to lose or job out in the Rumble. Right. Nothing more than a pop. And it doesn't benefit Vince because he doesn't want their competition to be talked about. I mean, yeah, Seth Rollins dropped Mox's name, but that's what they do. They do it for cheap heat, cheap pops. It's okay when WWE, he's edgy. He said Mox's name. But if CM Punk says The Miz, they can't get WWE out their mouth. Just enjoy wrestling and stop finding things to nitpick.
Well, and I think that the promo was supposed to be said as Ambrose, too. I bet you Rollins kind of fucked up a little bit and said Mox, but I bet you they wanted him to say Ambrose because they own that. So why wouldn't they want him to say that? But, and the Mickey James thing, again, I know we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, and I'll rate this year's Rumble here in a minute, or the 94 Rumble, rather, the one we just covered. But the Mickey James thing is more of a make good for the way they let her go. They're going to let her shine a little bit in this match, let her have a few things, and don't be surprised if Trish Stratus shows up in this Rumble and is the one to eliminate Mickey James. And again, I know we're going to talk about it next week, but like it's essentially a make good for sending her stuff in a trash bag and her pointing it out and blasting WWE. This is the way to mend the fence between the two, a make good. They're going to give her, a paycheck. They're also going to give her probably a decent performance in the Rumble where she is the champion of another promotion. I don't think they're going to bury her. I think she'll have a decent run in this Rumble. And again, there's only going to be like 14 people in it, so it shouldn't be that hard to see Mickey James stick in the Rumble for a while. And I know I'm joking about that, but like they're still going to have to fill like 10 spots for this Rumble. So it should be interesting to see what they do. But going back to the 94 Rumble, I think just from the nostalgia of the Rumble and it being the first time they tried to pull off a double winner and knowing what they decide to do with it and really knowing they did it because of the uncertainty with Luger. The reason they did this, and it's been pointed out before, was because if Luger couldn't carry the ball, they wanted to have Brett as a backup plan, and it worked out perfectly. And Brett, if I were Brett, I wouldn't be real happy being called the backup plan, but I mean, at least they know that you're dependable and someone that the fans want to see. So that being said, the singles matches and stuff weren't, left a little bit to be desired. The Brett and Owen was great. And everything else was just kind of meh, except for, like I said, I really enjoy the Rumble matches. So I would say that it was somewhere in Mongo held up six fingers earlier. I would say it was somewhere in that range, the Sean Waltman area of our shows, and basically just because I'm a homer for Royal Rumbles.
I was pointing up six fingers. I wanted to say that's what I think you're going to rate it, because that's what I'm going to rate it too. I'm going to give it a Sean Waltman, to quote you. Again, like you both said, the tag team match was very solid. I mean, the storytelling of the match, Brett getting beat down, we joked about the rest, but great match. Yeah, then like you said, the rest of the card was kind of mad, except for the Rumble. Rumble's my favorite match too, so I'm a homer as well, I guess, because normally we shit on battle royals or we shit on multi-man matches. The Royal Rumble, where they come out staggered, to me is better, because yeah, the ring will fill up, but then it empties. But when everyone's just in the ring, it's a clusterfuck. Here, at least they're coming out. I wish they had entrance music back in the '90s. I forgot. It's so weird when they just walk out like there's no music or anything like that. Like going back now, but that's always my favorite, is when you hear those notes of a familiar song hit. You're like I think that's what makes the Royal Rumble fun. Is you never know who's going to show up. And I think that's the appeal of any Rumble, is who's going to show up, what legend's going to return. Lita came back for the Rumble, for this year, so it's fun, and that's what made this an overall good thing. And I will say, to piggyback off your point, Roland, Mickie James also has come back, because I guarantee it. I'm going to say it now. On the 22nd of January, Mickie James is going to the Hall of Fame this year, and that's the other apology.
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't shock me. They need to make good, because she had the balls, and again, figuratively, obviously, to call out the WWE for the way they treated her on the way out. They sent her shit home to her in a friggin' trash bag, which, to defend WWE a little bit, is that the easiest way to gather someone's stuff? Yeah, in a hurry, you've never like, if you're in a hurry, you've never been like, what can I grab? You're like, oh, I'll just grab a trash bag, throw everything in, and I'll figure it out later. But like, for a multi-million-dollar company to be like, we're gonna send their shit home in a trash bag, it's like, no. Like, even if you gather all their stuff in a trash bag, put it in something else before you send it to them. Like, come on, man. Like, seriously.
And at least they fired Mark Carano, the douchebag who did it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we will say, and they publicly apologize. So I will say, like, for all the crap we do give, like, they at least made it right publicly. Like, hey, we took care of the person who did this. They're no longer employed by us. We're sorry. And then, like you said, reaching out saying, hey, why don't you come back for the Rumble? Hey, we're going to induct you in the Hall of Fame. Like, let's make this right, because they want to. At the end of the day, they're not stupid. They have to mend their fences, because they want her in the Hall of Fame, because her and Trish had that iconic feud. So, for all the people who say we just crap into we give them credit when credit's due. And I will say, at least they're trying to fix, something that, again, really wasn't their fault. But one douchebag who thought it'd be funny to send it to other women, like, I'm going to send their shit in a trash bag, just because he was a dick. And that's all it was. He was a dick. And he stole belts from them. He got his karma. He's no longer employed. Nobody in wrestling will touch him.
Well, and it's funny, too, because I've seen episodes of Total Divas where, like, I thought that maybe they were setting him up to be a dick. And then it just confirmed, no, he's a dick. Like, 100%, like, Carano's a douchebag. And, yeah, it just... So, going back to this, I will give credit to Razor and IRS. That match was relatively solid. The ending was clunky due to the Shawn Michaels thing, but we get why they had to do it and what the point of that was. But yeah, it was a solid show, and whenever you can end a pay-per-view with a Rumble, you can't complain.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was definitely fun to go back and watch the '94 Rumble. Speaking of Royal Rumble, though, that leads us into next week's show. We're going to give you our predictions for this year's Royal Rumble. This year's Royal Rumble takes place on Saturday next week. So it's not Sunday like it normally is, so just be aware of that. So we'll give you our predictions, and we'll probably drop the show a few hours earlier than normal, probably around 12, 1 o'clock, somewhere in that time frame, depending on when we finish recording and things like that, just to give you more of a chance to listen to our predictions before the actual Rumble starts. So looking forward to covering Royal Rumble 2022 next week.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I know that both Tim and I haven't been like super up to date with what's going on. I mean, we've been following, but we haven't been like, I can't speak for Mongo. I assume he's not following that closely either, but so that kind of means we have to follow Raw and SmackDown this week a little bit, just to kind of help give us an idea of exactly what's going on. I know we've seen bits and pieces of certain things, but to be honest, the only shows I'm watching from start to finish are AEW right now. I'm watching Dynamite and I'm watching Rampage, and then I'll flip through Raw and SmackDown if I'm bored and have nothing to do. That's unfortunately where things are at right now with WWE's product.
I mean, SmackDown hasn't been a terrible show, so I've watched probably clips here and there on Hulu and stuff. But I'm not going to say that I've watched Raw because I don't think I've watched a Raw in a good year now. I know my friend Nick tried to watch Raw recently, and it was definitely emotional damage for him trying to get through that. But I like the Royal Rumble, and it's like I know it's like that, touching a cactus. Like, this hurts, but I like cactus. Like it's like I want to watch the Royal Rumble.
Bang bang.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wrong cactus.
$10 cactus check. $10.
So I think it'll be interesting to try to predict it. Last year I did get both Edge and Bianca correct, so a lot of pressure on me to try to get at least one correct this year because I can't go from 2-0 to 0-2.
The way the WWE is, yes, you can.
So that's coming up for you guys next week. Before we wrap up, shout out to Roland's mom, Linda. This is a Linda episode this week.
Yeah, we apologized to her last week. It was long. We made this one like 50 minutes. So hopefully you can appreciate that, Mom.
Yes. So thank you, Linda, for listening as always. And thank you for listening as always. Tell your friends, tell strangers, tell whatever to listen to us. Follow us on our socials. We'll be back next week with our Royal Rumble 2022 predictions. Have a great week. We'll see you next Saturday. I'm Tim Kirk.
I'm Roland Fulis.
And I'm Mongo.
And this is Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present. No funny thing at the end here, guys?
I did it last week. I assumed we were taking turns on that.
Nick, you owe me $10.
I hope you're all having a nice day.